Something has gone terribly wrong with the bread we eat today. For thousands of years, people called bread the staff of life. It built entire civilizations. It fed armies. It kept families alive through harsh winters. But the bread on your table today is not the same. It inflames your digestive system. It causes your blood sugar to spike. It leaves you feeling hungry within an hour. Consider this. In 1324, in a small village near York, England, the average peasant ate 2 to 3 pounds of bread every day. Bread made up 70% of their total calories. These were not idle people. They hauled stones. They plowed fields. They built cathedrals that still stand centuries later. And they thrived on bread. There was no diabetes epidemic. There was no widespread gluten sensitivity. There was no inflammatory bowel disease affecting 1 in every 100 people. Now look at today. 1 in 3 adults is pre-diabetic. Celiac disease has increased by 400% since the 1950s. Millions more suffer from something doctors call non-celiac gluten sensitivity. They experience bloating, brain fog, joint pain, and chronic fatigue. Your grandfather ate bread his entire life without any problem. So what changed? The answer is not that you are weak. The answer is not that your digestive system is defective. The answer is that modern bread is not real bread. It is an industrialized product designed for profit, not for health. And the medieval peasant, the one you have been taught to pity, knew something about wheat that the food industry does not want you to remember. What modern bread really is. Pick up a loaf of bread from any supermarket. Look at the ingredients. You will see enriched wheat flour. This is code for wheat that has been stripped of everything valuable, then injected with synthetic vitamins to meet legal requirements. You will see high fructose corn syrup. You will see soybean oil. You will see mono and diglycerides. You will see calcium propionate. You will see azotocarbonamide, a chemical that is also used in yoga mats and shoe rubber. This is not bread. This is a laboratory product. Medieval bread had 3 ingredients: flour, water, salt, sometimes a bit of leaven or yeast. That was all. Modern industrial bread needs 20 to 30 ingredients just to stay soft on a shelf for 2 weeks. And the problems go much deeper than the ingredient list. The wheat itself has changed completely. In 1960, a scientist named Norman Borlaug developed what he called miracle wheat. It had shorter stalks. It produced higher yields. It resisted disease. He won the Nobel Prize for this work. They called it the Green Revolution. It fed millions of people. But there was a cost that no one discussed. This new wheat, called semi-dwarf wheat, was bred for one purpose: maximum yield per acre. Not nutrition, not digestibility, just yield. To achieve this, plant breeders introduced genetic changes that altered the gluten structure. They increased the starch content. They increased compounds called lectins and phytates that interfere with how your body absorbs nutrients. Ancient wheat varieties like einkorn had 14 chromosomes. Emmer wheat had 28 chromosomes. Modern bread wheat has 42 chromosomes. This genetic complexity came at a price. Modern wheat contains gluten proteins that your great-grandfather's digestive system never encountered. The gliadin fraction, the part responsible for most gluten reactions, is structurally different. Studies from the University of Kansas found that modern wheat triggers significantly higher immune responses than heritage varieties. Your body sees it as a foreign invader. It responds with inflammation, not because you are sensitive, but because the wheat has been engineered into something your digestive system does not recognize as food. The milling problem. Then there is how wheat is milled. Medieval flour was stone ground. This was a slow process that kept the wheat kernel intact. The bran, the germ, the endosperm, all ground together. That meant the flour still contained fiber, healthy fats, B vitamins, and minerals like magnesium and zinc. Modern roller milling, introduced in the 1870s, strips all of that away. It removes the bran and the germ because they contain oils that go rancid, which shortens shelf life. What remains is pure white endosperm, basically pure starch and a damaged protein structure. Then it is bleached with chemicals like chlorine gas or benzoyl peroxide to make it whiter. This is what gets sold as enriched flour. It is called enriched because manufacturers have to add back a fraction of the nutrients they destroyed. But the damage is already done. Medieval bread was slow. After mixing flour and water, bakers let the dough rest and ferment for 12 to 24 hours, sometimes longer. This was not laziness, it was necessity. During that fermentation, natural yeast and bacteria broke down the starches and proteins. They predigested the bread for you. The gluten became easier to process. Phytic acid, which binds to minerals and blocks absorption, was neutralized. Lectins, which can damage the gut lining, were reduced. By the time the bread went into the oven, it was fundamentally transformed. Your modern supermarket loaf is mixed, risen, and baked in under 3 hours. No fermentation, no breakdown of anti-nutrients, no predigestion, just raw reactive proteins hitting your gut at full strength. The result is a food that looks like bread and smells like bread, but behaves in your body like pure sugar. The glycemic index of white bread is 75. That is higher than table sugar at 65. It spikes your blood glucose faster than a candy bar. Your pancreas dumps insulin to handle the flood. Your blood sugar crashes. You feel hungry again an hour later. Over years, this cycle leads to insulin resistance, the root cause of type 2 diabetes. Medieval bread, with its intact fiber and slow fermentation, had a much lower glycemic response. It released energy slowly. It kept you full. It did not trigger the hormonal chaos that modern bread does every time you eat it. The medieval fields. To understand why medieval wheat was different, we need to go back to the fields. Medieval farmers grew what we now call landrace varieties. These were wheat strains adapted over centuries to local soil, local climate, and local conditions. Einkorn, the oldest cultivated wheat dating back 10,000 years. Emmer, used by the Egyptians to build the pyramids. Spelt, favored in medieval Germany and Switzerland. These varieties were not uniform. In a single field, you would see variation. Some stalks were taller, some were shorter, some ripened earlier, some ripened later. That diversity was insurance. If disease hit, some plants survived. If drought came, some adapted. It was not efficient by modern standards, but it was resilient, and it was digestible. Einkorn, for example, contains 14 chromosomes, the simplest genetic structure of any wheat. Its gluten is weak, which means it does not rise as dramatically as modern bread. But that weak gluten is exactly what makes it easier to digest. Studies at the University of Florence found that people with non-celiac gluten sensitivity could eat einkorn bread without symptoms. The gliadin proteins were structured differently. The immune system did not react, and the nutritional profile was superior. Einkorn has 30% more protein than modern wheat. It has 4 times more beta-carotene. It has significantly higher levels of lutein, an antioxidant that protects your eyes and brain. The milling process, medieval mills were powered by water or wind. They turned massive stones that ground the grain slowly. This process generated very little heat, preserving the delicate oils in the wheat germ. Those oils contain vitamin E, omega-3 fatty acids, and phytosterols that support heart health. Modern roller mills operate at high speed and high temperatures. They destroy those oils almost immediately. What is worse, the steel rollers create a fine, almost powdery flour that your body absorbs too quickly, causing blood sugar spikes. Stone-ground flour stays coarser. It takes longer to digest. It provides sustained energy instead of a brief surge followed by a crash. The secret of fermentation. But the real secret was fermentation. Medieval bakers did not have commercial yeast. They used wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria captured from the air, what we now call sourdough culture. This culture was kept alive for generations, passed from mother to daughter, baker to apprentice. When mixed with flour and water, the bacteria went to work. They consumed the sugars in the dough, producing lactic acid and acetic acid. This acidic environment activated enzymes that broke down phytic acid, the compound that binds to minerals like iron, zinc, and calcium, preventing absorption. It also broke down lectins and enzyme inhibitors that can irritate the gut lining. By the time the bread was baked, it was nutritionally transformed. A medieval peasant eating 2 pounds of this bread a day was not just filling his stomach. He was getting complete nutrition, protein from the wheat germ, healthy fats from the oils, B vitamins for energy, minerals made bioavailable through fermentation. fiber to keep his gut healthy, and all of it delivered in a form his body could process without triggering inflammation. That is why they could work 12-hour days in the fields. That is why they did not collapse from blood sugar crashes. The bread sustained them because it was real food. The nutritional difference. Nutritionally, the difference is staggering. Heritage wheat varieties contain 25 to 30% more protein than modern wheat. They have higher levels of selenium, an essential mineral for thyroid function and immune health. They contain more lutein and zeaxanthin, antioxidants that protect against macular degeneration, and they have significantly more omega-3 fatty acids in the germ. Modern wheat, bred for yield and shelf stability, sacrificed all of this. When you remove the bran and germ, you remove 80% of the nutrients. Then you bleach and chemically treat what is left. What you end up with is nutritionally bankrupt starch that your body treats as an inflammatory toxin. The scientific evidence. In 2014, researchers in Italy conducted a fascinating experiment. They took a group of people with irritable bowel syndrome, all of whom reported severe symptoms after eating modern bread. They switched them to bread made from ancient einkorn wheat using traditional stone milling and long fermentation. The results? 80% reported significant improvement in symptoms. Less bloating, less pain, better digestion. The wheat was not the problem. The modern processing was. Another study from the University of Florence found that einkorn bread produced lower blood glucose and insulin responses compared to modern bread, even when consumed in identical amounts. And today there is a quiet resurgence. Small-scale farmers and bakers across Europe and North America are reviving heritage wheat. They are stone milling flour. They are fermenting dough for 24 hours or more. And their customers, many of whom thought they could never eat bread again, are discovering they can. Not because gluten was never the problem, but because modern wheat and modern processing created a problem that did not exist 100 years ago. These bakers are not selling nostalgia. They are selling bread that your body recognizes as food. How to eat bread again. If you want to eat bread that does not make you sick, you have 3 options. First, find bakers who use heritage wheat. Look for einkorn, emmer, or spelt. Make sure it is stone ground and naturally fermented. These bakers are rare, but they exist. Farmers markets, specialty bakeries. Second, buy heritage wheat flour and make your own sourdough. Yes, it takes time. You will need to maintain a starter culture. You will need to mix dough the night before. You will need to let it ferment 12 to 24 hours, but the result is bread that nourishes instead of harms. And once you develop the routine, it is no harder than any other weekly meal prep. Third, reduce your bread consumption entirely and replace it with whole, unprocessed grains. Medieval peasants ate bread because wheat was cheap and calorie-dense. You have options they did not. Oats, barley, quinoa, even rice, especially if prepared properly with soaking or fermenting, can provide the same sustenance without the inflammatory load of modern bread. For thousands of years, bread sustained humanity. In just a few decades, we changed it completely. The real question is, can we return to real bread? If you enjoyed this video, like it, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe.